March 11, 2026. Hello, I am John Michael Chambers, and welcome back. We are live to the GFR, the Global Financial Reset, Surviving and Thriving the Transition. It's an action-oriented program. Action items are typically delivered at the end. And joining me today are returning guests, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox and Rob Cunningham. Two incredible guests. This is going to be, I don't know what's going to be unpeeled in this episode, but believe me, you'll want to hang on to every single word. All right, well, what if the Federal Reserve Building is the new U.S. Treasury? And they're already printing new sovereign money under our noses. Well, let's break the spell. They just spent $2.5 billion to $3 billion relatively recently, turning the building into a fortress, complete with blast proofing, deep excavation, and infrastructure more fitting for a wartime financial command bunker than a central bank headquarters. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing is quietly installing cutting-edge currency presses capable of handling asset-backed notes, polymers, hot foil security, and high-throughput sheets. Think, new system, new currency, new rules. We have Executive Order 13961 active, Executive Order 13818 active. Legal cover for asset seizures, continuity of government transitions, and a reset of monetary authority outside of the old Fed structure. And here's the punchline. The actual U.S. Treasury building, untouched, antiquated, symbolic. This isn't remodeling, it's repurposing. And when the Federal Reserve collapses under the weight of its own lies, guess what's already locked, loaded, and press ready? A new U.S. Treasury, a new currency, a new era. They're not just printing money, they're printing the future. I think I missed an image of an announcement I'd like to make if my producer can pull that up. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, folks. It's morning here in Thailand. Got to get some more coffee in me. Each month we feature a Patriot for a Q&A hour. So all new Patriot Q&A hour, mark your calendars, Thursday, March 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern. On the screen in our private room is Derek Johnson to answer your questions for the solid hour. I will be on screen as your host. So come join us. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com and click on Premium Portal and learn about these options. All right, quick disclaimer before we bring our guests on. The information provided by me and my guests in this very program is for educational purposes only, and is not to be considered as specific investment, tax, nor legal advice. You are encouraged to do your own research and consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals. All right, having said that, and with that out of the way, welcome to KUWL, a passion project launched in December 2022. Born from a spirit of curiosity, Rob's thirst for truth and disdain for false narratives, he questions, researches, analyzes, interviews, and educates and opines on many of these issues. KUWL is an acronym for knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and life, experienced to the fullest. Rob's purpose is to leverage his experiences, his insights and discernment, and vast network of remarkable friends to bring you as much value as possible. So you'll want to follow Rob after this broadcast as well. Rob's personal background includes a business degree in management information systems, United States Air Force active duty as an instructor pilot with combat experience and a top secret security clearance, 2 years as a major airline pilot before unceremoniously being furloughed, 20 years in investment and mortgage banking, and more than 20 years owning and supporting a national leadership and sales development company. It's always good to have Rob Cunningham visit with us. Welcome back, sir.
It's my honor, John. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. There's a lot to unpack. I'm going to get right into it. I want to start, of course, with probably the most trending subject in the world today, certainly among the top ones, and that is Iran. Now, while there's so much we can unpack in Iran, and it will be kind of difficult to completely avoid the non-economic aspect of it, because this is such a huge epic fury operation that's unfolding. That's undoubtedly, in my view, going to spread to some other countries. I do want to touch on that briefly with you and our next guest when we panel out. But for right now, sir, what is the economic impact to America and perhaps the world presently as a result of epic fury, and how long lasting will it be in your estimation?
Well, John, I think that is the absolute most perfect question. I don't think it's going to last that long. I think what we have to understand is, first of all, looking in our rearview mirror gives us 2020 vision. We can always look in the last month or 6 months or go, oh, everybody knew that, right? When we're in the now and we're trying to guess going forward, it can somewhat be confusing. But I like to give your audience just a macro lens of how I view the world, so they'll understand where I'm headed. Look, we can't serve two masters. The people of this world want to control the money because that controls all the power, that controls the systems, that controls the governments, that controls the institutions. We started 2,000 years ago with somebody teaching us, look, this RICO model of the money changers and the politicians in the church screwing the people with usury interest and 10% on the dollar currency exchanges. Jesus exposed that, and 5 days later they killed him. Here we are today with global central banks screwing the people. Everybody's clue. The church has messed us all up from a logic standpoint, and we're trying to get free again. So from the late 1600s, we've had the Rothschild central banking empire working its magic and perfecting its game. For us, in 1913, they installed their Federal Reserve System, which is just a system. It's not federal. There are no reserves, fractional reserve lending. They print counterfeit money out of thin air. They immediately got us into two wars, World War I and World War II. We come out of that, we get the Bretton Woods Conference, and we have a world reserve currency, courtesy of the Rothschilds, to bathe the entire world in debt. Federal Reserve debt notes printed out of the Federal Reserve. So now we have 195 countries who have to bend a knee and organize their lives and their governments and their countries and their partnerships around this debt note that the central bankers use to extract wealth out of not just us, but every country that uses it. Right? So add to that divide and conquer. You've always have to have fear. You always have to have a boogeyman. Well, the biggest boogeyman in the world, one of them has been Tehran. Okay? And they have been, our ladies at Prometheus Action are brilliant researchers, but they really draw a clear point on this. The city of London is financing the boogeyman to keep us all scared, to keep the military industrial complex alive. What do we know that's about 40 kilometers south of Tehran? From my research and my understanding and my contacts, John, we have servers that have videotapes. We have evidence of Wuhan transactions. We have evidence of fraudulent election data. We have $1.6 billion of cash that came from the Obama administration, which we were told was about a nuclear deal. If you were going to hide all of your incriminating evidence for having controlled the world out of the city of London, and you'd scared the world to death that Tehran was an untouchable evil because it was actually a proxy of your own creation, wouldn't that be a logically safe place for a demented, sick entity to hide the evidence that could incriminate it? My understanding is in the first couple of 3 days, the good guys, the white hats, the military got all the hard evidence they needed to prove everything that we suspected has been a fraud against humanity. And we have it. So we've got battleships protecting the Strait of Hormuz. Iran no longer has a navy. They don't have an air force. They don't have a military. They don't have a leadership team. They really, they really can't do too terribly much. There's going to be some skirmishes for sure, but for the most part, this tyrannical government of mullahs and assholes has been decapitated. And to prove my point that the city of London was trying to control the whole situation, what did they immediately do? Day one, Lloyd's of London, cancel the insurance policy, spike the oil markets. And as if Trump and Scott Bassett didn't already realize it, they immediately stepped in and said, "We'll provide the insurance. We're going to escort the tankers. Everything's good." We had oil spike up. We had oil spike right back down. Now, if our special relationship, John, with the city of London was really that special, would the first thing that they do after we go in and do Operation Epic Fury be to unleash Lloyd's of London to screw up the oil markets? How the hell is that a special relationship? But we're cutting we're cutting the cord with the special relationship, and we're getting our absolute sovereignty and freedom back from a genuine, legitimate United States Treasury without any permission slips from the Federal Reserve needed anymore. So my belief is this is a necessary cord cutting exercise, and we've already won.
A cord cutting exercise. Well stated. Yeah, you talked about the Bretton Woods Agreement. You gave a great macro setup for this, which I appreciate. I'm sure our viewers do. And of course, the Bretton Woods Agreement led us to what's you said the world's reserve currency, or the petrodollar. And of course, we're moving away from that, which we'll talk about later. But so, from your perspective, I mean, I just scan some of the data. I don't have time to follow any general reports and so forth. But I took a look at Clayton Morris on Redacted. Seems like a real nice guy. He's done some decent reporting. Um, I but the clips I scanned through of just Clayton, I think his name is, by himself on camera, kind of very candid for about an hour, discussing Iran, and his ultimate summary vastly differs from yours. And then, of course, when you go to the Tuckers and the Candace Owens, and we're sort of in the, I don't want to call these three mainstream, but we're not mainstream. So there's something else. And, and the general tone, of course, and certainly mainstream, we know what their tone is. What a big mistake. Trump's a warmonger. You know, what are we doing? We're failing. We're not reporting the information correctly. If you wanted to snap back against that, what would you say?
When a tyrannical person has nuclear or trying to get nuclear weapons, they've obliterated 250 to 300,000 of their own people from the time Obama ignored the Green Revolution in the summer of 2009 until the week before we went in, where they killed 45,000 people on the street just for protesting. When they say death to America and death to Israel, they have missiles pointed at 11 Middle Eastern countries. You probably ought to believe them. Okay. And
Yep.
an operation to take out an asshole is not a war, it's an operation. And if it takes 4
Mhm.
weeks to get them done and give the country back and let the people take their government back and we go back home, that's not Afghanistan for 20 years. That's not Iraq.
That's right.
That's not
That's right.
that's not a war. That is a defensive exercise. And we have every right in the world to protect ourselves.
Without question. Thank you. It reminds me of Jimmy Carter. I mean, remember standing online every odd day to try and get gas just so I can get to a job that I hated, so I can pay bills that I didn't want to have, so I can pay taxes that I shouldn't have paid. But that's a different story. But Jimmy Carter, the people were once free. The women weren't burqed to death. Um, and and look what's happened since those days where they held our 400 citizens as hostage, and it's been all hell ever since. But you've laid the groundwork very clearly. And in your estimation, I realize you're not actively serving, and may not be privy and aren't privy to this data. But from your viewpoint, when do you think epic fury, at least the phase that's in right now, winds down to a screeching halt. All the bomb dropping and all the issues with the straits and so forth and so on. In other words, when will we move on to Cuba? Because that's what's next, in my opinion.
Exactly what you set me. I would say by the end of this month. I say we're just under 3
Okay.
weeks. Look at what has happened now that Iran is neutralized. Cuba was bodyguards and protecting Maduro in Venezuela. Venezuela, my understanding that Maduro is already singing like Whitney Houston, has already turned over names of active U.S. senators and congressmen and governors and other people that have been beneficiaries of narco terrorism and fentanyl dollars and fentanyl death. So when you take out not only, look, if we took out Maduro in Cuba, was defending Maduro, what does that tell you the difficulty of taking Cuba out is going to be? If we went in 2 hours and
Mm-hmm.
came back out and we landed on a military base and took the president and his wife, and Cuba couldn't stop us because they were his bodyguard, and we've got
Mm-hmm.
people protesting in the streets of Cuba saying, "Come get us," and Trump's already said they're walking dead. It's just a matter. This is the easiest thing ever. So guess who does that leave out completely to collapse now that Iran has been decapitated? Venezuela's been rescued and Cuba's going to fall. Where's China going to get its oil? They're
Yeah.
going to get it from Venezuela. And who controls the Venezuelan oil? The United States of America does. So
Interesting.
if you want to talk about the decapitation of the energy markets around the world, guess who not only produces as a net exporter, but now has taken away this centralized nexus of energy going to all of the arch enemies of America and made them basically unable to deliver what China depends on the most. So that kind of gives all the bargaining chips to President Trump, doesn't it?
Sure does. Great analysis. And as we all know, master 5D chess player. He could have written The Art of War himself. And so well said. And well, there's so much to unpack in Iran. And we're going to cover that in our Global Defense War panel from a lot of different angles. But you've touched on the peripheral and you've touched on for sure the economic aspect. And I appreciate that very much. What I'd like to do right now, sir, is bring on our next guest. And then we'll have a roundtable discussion on about half a dozen questions I have for you, gentlemen, and anything that you'd like to raise to our audience. You don't want to go anywhere. Stay put, sir. I'll be right there with you. Let's introduce U.S. Army retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. Uh, He's a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel with extensive experience in logistics, finance, procurement, and large scale systems management across decades of military and Department of Defense service. He has degrees in accounting, general business, and military controllership. As a Department of Defense highly qualified expert, SES equivalent, he provided expertise in logistics, military finance, systems analysis, change management, risk management, and business process reengineering. He served as a senior advisor for two major Army ERP systems with annual expenditures exceeding $1 billion. As a senior analyst and consultant, Tom Lennox authored the document that led to the creation of the Army Installation Management Command, contributed to U.S. Army change management plans, revised the Army budget process, and developed outsourcing and privatization strategies across Army and Air Force operations. He's also the author and co author of numerous papers that led to significant changes in the United States Army's management processes. Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox expanded biography, as well as Rob Cunningham's, can both be found by visiting my website, jmcbroadcasting.com. You click on contributors up top. You will find these gentlemen, their photographs, their extended biographies, and ways to follow and reach out to them. It's great to have you back, sir. Please welcome Tom Lennox.
So you asked how long? I think how long Rob's right on target, be done by the end of March. The other piece of that is that Israel's last. And so Israel will be pretty quick after Iran, personal opinion. Um, let's see, where was I?
Can I ask you a question,
Yeah,
sir, before you move on
yeah.
about what you just stated? So in your crystal ball, you have a more of a sense that we may be going to Israel straight after Iran versus perhaps Cuba. Is that
Uh,
what you
I
feel?
I see both of them. Israel is
Okay.
an illegal country. There was a Balfour Agreement in 1929 that expired last year. So
Mm.
Israel is not a legal country. We have so many congressmen and senators who have dual citizenship with Israel and the United States. And interestingly enough, there is no extradition treaty with Israel for anybody. Think about
Very
that for a
interesting.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Coincidences? I don't know.
no, there's no coincidences.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump
Well,
in further back
mhm.
than Rob did and talk a little bit about why we had two world wars and why there was a prediction of a third one. And that was with the leader of the Masons in 1870s predicted three wars: World War One, World War Two, and World War Three. Three is not going to happen.
Good news there.
The amount
Let
of
me.
gold, the
Mhm.
amount of gold in Iran is mind-boggling. They have been discovered by the White Hats in the last 2 weeks. Huge stockpiles of gold. Um, so when we go to a digital asset-backed currency, they won't have any trouble going to it.
Mhm.
Plus, taking care of some of the rest of the Middle East. Iran has been a CIA proxy since the overthrow of the Shah. Uh, the CIA has been very active there. Financially, the price of, and I look at it from a very consumer perspective, price of gas has gone up 30 cents a gallon in the last 3 weeks. It will stay up there for a short period. Uh, the fact that we are back as the major producer of oil means that the price will drop significantly. I'm going to jump in where we talked about Jimmy Carter. When I was on active duty, um, and this was never, well, it was, there was a plan, and I'm going to be very careful. There was a plan to invade Iran to get those hostages back. It
Mhm.
wasn't the helicopters that Jimmy Carter sent in. It was a full scale logistics and military plan.
Mhm.
Um, and that was probably killed by the CIA because you have to remember when that was. Um, let me see, I got some notes here the
Sure.
oil spike, um, the Masons predicting the wars, and the other piece that they did in 1913, besides the Federal Reserve, was the IRS
Mhm.
illegally passing the 16th Amendment.
Mhm.
Uh, if you look at the IRS rules, it states in the first couple of pages that paying of income taxes is voluntary
Mhm.
in their own rules because it too is not a U.S. government agency. The IRS is a
Yep.
corporation run out of uh, Puerto Rico. When we look at the Rothschilds, we're looking at a very interesting relationship between them and the Vatican. And because we have three pillars that were central to the operation: London for the money, the United States for the military, and the Vatican for its religion. And it's the Holy Roman Empire. That's what it's called if you look at the true church. I think that Iran itself, the people of Iran, and I know a number of people who were immigrants from Iran, I think Iran will be fine. They have very many brilliant people, and the Shah's son will take over the country for a short period. Uh, I believe the biggest issue is going to be financial because of the oil. And if, in fact, we bombed their production facilities, then we have another problem.
Mm.
I have heard that none of their rockets and missiles hit anything. Most of the pictures we see are old pictures that the
Interesting.
Navy bars have been blowing the rockets and drones out of the sky on a regular basis.
President Trump, if I may interject, President Trump is certainly uh, has been reporting, and I haven't caught all the reports, but that this has been quite a success. We've decapitated the key infrastructures and targets. And to your point, and Rob Cunningham, which we'll bring on in a moment, talking about comparison, we pulled the Maduro operation, in 5 minutes, and this thing in 10 minutes, figuratively speaking, where Dick Cheney and George Bush had us in the Middle Eastern countries for 15 or 20 years, spending trillions of dollars and making a fortune at it, and never mind the loss of life. And so here we are, and yet the media, the mainstream media, and even the levels that I discussed in my off the heels of my monologue, have very vastly different views from you and Rob and from many people, and it's almost as if they're completely not believing what the president is reporting. Um, I mean, I think we have a pretty transparent commander in chief, wouldn't you say, sir?
We have a very transparent commander in chief. In fact, I was talking to a Navy captain a week or so ago, and he said it's the first one we've had who's been really for the military and a commander in chief. Um,
Yep.
when we talk about the success, it's phenomenal. It really is. Um, they don't have any missiles left. The missiles that have been falling broken in pieces. The pictures, I personally think the pictures, much like the pictures we see from Ukraine, are
Mm,
false flag pictures. They're old
okay.
pictures from years ago.
Mhm.
They put them back up, say, oh, wow, we got more pictures. Yeah. The reality is
Interesting.
probably very different.
Yes. I'm fascinated about your comments on Israel. I'd like to bring on Rob Cunningham to my producer. If we could do a three-panel screen, I'd like to have that discussion. Uh, Rob Cunningham, meet retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. Thank you, gentlemen, both for participating here in this discussion.
Thank
It's an
you.
honor, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You- Rob, you've been listening in the proverbial green room, digital green room, as it were, to Tom, and anything you want to comment on is great, but I'd like to pick up the Save Israel for Last aspect. We'll go with Rob, and then we'll come back to Lieutenant Colonel Lennox in a moment. What's your take on that statement by Q? I don't have the exact quote, but Save Israel for Last is basically the soundbite. And there's a lot of controversy concerning Israel, and we beat that to a pulp in terms of the Israel and the Jews the Bible is speaking about versus the Israels and the Jews today. And Colonel Lennox raised the issue of the true creation of that. What's your feedback on Israel? And do you believe we're saving Israel for less? And what exactly does that mean?
Right. I think we've not allowed ourselves to have a objective, broad conversation of the term Israel. Israel is holy land, um, the land that a holy person stands on. God turned his back on Israel and they turned his back on him and he rejected them. And then he came back, and re-engaged with them. So is Israel a landmass or is Israel a place where holy people that love God stand? Can Israel be wherever those who love God live and prosper? Is And we have the Jews in name only, the synagogue of Satan, you call yourself Jews and you're not, right? So we not only have the issues of divide and conquer, right? We have the Holy Land versus the 1948 version of the United Nations drawing on a map, right? Which is not necessarily the same biblical Israel. And are we talking
Mhm.
about those that love God, Israel, that serve God in a holy way, and wherever that person is, he blesses their land? Is this truly a demographic area, or is it broader than that? Why are Christians being murdered all over the world? Why can Christians be targeted and others can't be? Wasn't America found by 56 signatures in a declaration love letter to God? I mean, God contracted with Abraham. Our founding fathers contracted with God. Wasn't that a love letter that said, all of our rights come from you? We want this to be a holy nation based on life, liberty, and unalienable rights given to us by God? Okay, but so I do believe it's broader. The Q drop said, I'm saving Israel for last, not mentioned a single time. Why? How broad is that issue? How contentious is religion? How are the religious people? God didn't tell Peter to go forth and set up 465,000 501c3s, right? He didn't say go set up a bunch of religions. He said faith. It's about faith. It's about following me and my principles, right? I am the way to the door to the kingdom and the kingdoms within. It's not about tithing, burning candles, or ringing bells. It's a way.
Yes.
Okay. So you could take this, we're saving Israel, we're saving Christianity, we're saving sovereignty, we're saving God's people to live and let live. We haven't talked about what that means, but if we can cut the head off the snake and get rid of central banking and the Rothschilds and these assholes, then every country is going to have a right to practice whatever faith they want to practice.
Yes. Interesting. Thank you. Tom, Colonel Lennox, you care to comment on that?
Yeah, I think we have three groups of people that are in Israel. We have the Zionists, who are not from Judea, and we have the Khazarians, who
Mhm.
came out of Iraq, not Iraq,
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Judeans, who are the true Jews. And we have we have the Talmud and the Torah.
Mhm.
The Talmud is the Zionists' gospel. The Torah is the true gospel of the Judeans. And so when we look at Israel being last, we're looking at the Zionists and the Khazarians being wiped out. Because when we can go study a lot of history and find out that the Zionists have done a whole lot of things, to include running the Mossad in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the Khazarians trying to rule the world. And the Judean people, the true Jews,
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't Jews, they were Judeans. There were 13 tribes. We could probably find more of the original tribes in Ethiopia than we could find anywhere else in the world. Very interesting thought
It is.
process
Let
there.
me ask you. Thank you, sir. Let me ask you a question. You mentioned the three different types of
Uh-huh.
individuals, classes of people living in, occupying that space: Khazarian, Judean, the original, and the Zionists. Here comes a loaded question. Which one of those categories does Benjamin Netanyahu sit in?
He sits in two. He's a
Two meaning what?
Zionist. He's a
Oh, I got you.
Zionist, and he's a Khazarian.
Rob, any comments about Benjamin Netanyahu? What's your take on this gentleman?
Yeah, I believe politicians of his ilk have so many built-in conflicts of interest; they're inextractable. I would also say that if we want to truly follow the money, I think we can make a strong case for going back to the City of London, the money printers infiltrating every part of the world, every square inch of the world. I mean, for context, John, your audience should think about this. How is it that the United States of America, after the Federal Reserve System was installed on us, before we had committees that needed to figure out how to give away all of our wealth just on tariffs alone, and we didn't have income taxes.
Mhm.
We installed a Federal Reserve System, and somehow we owe $39 trillion to a
How
city of
about
London that doesn't make anything, build anything, grow anything, harvest anything, create anything. All they do is act as a capital markets foreign exchange engine that doesn't make shit. But we owe them $39 trillion backed by all of our assets, stocks, bonds, property, land, everything. Their debt paper has given them entitlement to $39 trillion of things backed by our assets. So we, the people, owe a shithole that doesn't make anything $39 trillion. How does that happen?
that? Mm-hmm.
The
So,
Fascinating.
corporation of the United States
yes,
is how that happened.
this wealth extraction system that the Rothschilds have put into play the world over. Trust me, it gives them enough power to put Bibi Netanyahu on strings and make Bibi do whatever the hell they need Bibi to do to keep the Middle East a hotbed. To put this in perspective for your audience, Israel is like if you went out on a football field and put a dime on the middle of the 50-yard line, that would be the landmass of Israel, and the rest of the football field would be Muslim territory in the Middle East. Why is it there?
Let me ask.
If not to just be a belligerent to cause constant chaos and war that profits the money makers?
What's your comment, Rob? And then we'll take it to Colonel Lennox, and then I'm going to move us into some new territory. What's your comment on the narrative that's permeating out there within our movement, as well as outside of our movement, that states that Trump is fighting Israel's wars, Trump's bowing down to Benjamin Netanyahu after all he kissed the wall, blah 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 blah. Rob, what's your quick feedback on that statement? How would you like to counter that narrative, if in fact you counter it?
Trump is 1,000% in charge, and Bibi does what he's told to do. Bibi is exposed. Bibi has nowhere to go but to basically obey. Maybe Bibi flipped 6 months ago and said, "Whatever you say, Trump. I see the chessboard. We can't win. Now I'm on your team." He may have struck a deal. I don't know what those back conversations are. Trump is 100. Trump and his global alliance team are 100%.
Mm-hmm.
100. If Bibi hasn't seen what we've done in Venezuela and what we've done twice in Iran and doesn't think for 1 second we can't do the same damn thing in Israel, he's lost his mind. Okay? So, but The issue here for Trump more than anything is the brainwashing of the religious institutions to they hear the word Jew and people are
Yep.
paralyzed and that Jews can't make a
Yep.
mistake and oh the Nazis and oh my God and either Jews are bad or Jews are God's chosen people, right? But people are so screwed up in the head. They have no discernment, no understanding. They have no idea what the colonel just talked about with three different types of Jews. We're dealing with 60% of Americans who can't name the three branches of government. That is President Trump's biggest risk is the ignorance of the people and how fast he can move. And then these
Yeah.
influencers that are out there, they're just trying to stir the pot and ring the bell and make some money. It's not really
Yep.
hard to get people pissed off and screaming at each other. That's a pretty easy trick.
Yep. Well said. Thank you, Colonel Lennox. Any final comment on the subject of Bibi Netanyahu and the notion that Trump is fighting his wars for him? What's your take?
The first time Trump did his tour, where he went to Saudi Arabia, and then he went to Israel, and he went to the Vatican,
Mm-hmm.
that's when Bibi said, yes, sir, 3 bags full. I will follow you however you tell me to work. Because Trump had done the sword dance in Saudi Arabia. He went to
Mm-hmm.
Israel. And he said, we're putting the embassy in Jerusalem. He went to the
Yes.
Vatican and he looked the Pope in the eyes and said, you have one day to make a decision. 620 plane loads of gold, flew back to the United States. Then he went to London and the Queen walked behind him. You have to always remember that. The Queen
Yes.
walked behind Trump. It said he was
Mm-hmm.
in charge. He went to the, what's the city in China? The Forbidden City. He went to the Forbidden City. Nobody goes to the Forbidden City. Trump did. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
crosses the 38th parallel in Korea and walks in
That's
and
right.
shakes hands with Kim Jong Un. That's when he took charge. And when you listen to Derek,
Excellent.
he was in charge the whole time Biden was allegedly in office. So,
Yes. Of
yeah,
course. Thank you, sir. You're to our audience. You're referring to Derek Johnson there. Great analysis from each of you. And what I'm going to say to my audience right now, our audience, folks, if you want to counter the narrative that the big machine is putting out there, and the less founded and grounded, stable people within our movement that waffle on the president or have just don't understand this, and I'm not beating them up. We're the recipients of a psyop and an information war for the last, well, forever, but for the last 10 years. And so I'm not, I hate to quote Bill Clinton, but I feel your pain of confusion. That's why I do these shows. That's why I bring on people like Rob Cunningham and retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox and my other military panels. Take this information, folks, and use it as a weapon out there to counter those narratives. And for those that aren't fully aboard yet, why don't you do some of the homework that these gentlemen just shared with you? Some historical references, some biblical references, political references, past, present, and some forecasts on the future, and come to your own conclusions. We're all seeking the truth, because someone once said the truth will set us free. And that's all we're trying to do here. And I think you gentlemen are doing a fantastic job. And I greatly appreciate that. To my producer, I don't know where I'm at. Do I have image number 4? Pop that up on the screen. I want to see what that prompts me to do. It's up here for a reason. Okay. I'd like you gentlemen to weigh in on this. Donald Trump is giving you all so many signs. Do you want to know what he posted today? Okay, so just someone's putting this out on the social medias, you can see, concerning Kim Clement. I had the opportunity to meet with Donna Clement off stage at a Clay event when I was speaking, and then we interviewed her at American Media Periscope. Great woman, and carrying on the message of Kim Clement. But here's this post. Do you want to know what Trump just reposted? He reposted this quote, "There shall be a break in the financial system in the Middle East, the dinar. And then he shall say, why now? And once everything seems at their worst, I shall bring it forth, and I shall free them up. There shall be prosperity in a place you least expect it." Now, this is years ago. Kim Clement has passed on, but that's Kim Clement, republished by Commander-in-Chief and President Donald J. Trump. We'll go to Tom Lennox and then Rob. Quick comment on that post, that Trump would republish that out.
Absolutely right on target. Kim Clement hit it right on the nose. And the place you least expect it is probably Africa, where there'll be big changes in Africa. They've already started,
I've had,
but they're going to be huge.
yes, I'm here in Southeast Asia, as everybody knows, and
Yeah.
and I get to meet a lot of people from different places of the world. It's that way here. Thailand's the number one tourist country, in the world, pretty much, Bangkok, and certainly in the region. And so people from all over the world are here. And some of the African folks I've been speaking with have been asking me, when is Trump going to help us? It's becoming a new conversation at water coolers around the world. Please, please, like our Cuban friends in Miami, going to be dancing in the streets at Caliocho, I'll tell you that. Rob, your quick comment on that post that I just put up there, that the fact that the president would re-put that out there also, I find intriguing.
Yeah, Ariel is a man that is deeply focused and deeply schooled in monetary money exchange, currency exchanges. Look, if we're going to level the playing field, that means countries have to have their own sovereign currency and have control over the sovereignty of their country, their culture, their institutions, and their way of life. They have to have sound money. And if we want to have interoperability and bilateral mutual agreement, mutual consent on a level playing field, then everyone has to have basically a stable coin, which is an equal weight and measure. That's biblical. We have to have mutual consent, equal weights and measures. We have to have clarity, one record, atomic settlement, compliance, trust. Okay, we have to have truth in mathematical systems, not in politicians and institutions. So when we have verifiable clarity, equal weights and measures, and institutions, nations can have their own sovereign currency, and they can then trade in stable coins, then Trump's been speaking for 40 or 45 years about how they screw us over with the currency exchange rates, the financial wars. You do a trade deal, and then 20 days later, the country dilutes their currency with 20% more supply. They just stole 20% from us. They just lowered the deal, right? So how do you transparently, through Space Force, through AI, through mathematic transparency and accountability and verification, everyone makes sure that we have stable coins. And if a country decides to give away all their gold, triple hypothecate, go into too much debt, put out too much currency, deal's off, because it's transparent. If part of the contract between nations that get to freely do business with one another and freely negotiate bilaterally, if one party breaks the rules, you have to be able to prove that you're honoring the deal. And when you don't, that's in the deal, you can leave. Okay, that prevents currency manipulation and one party screwing another party. So the dinar has got to come up. The Abraham Accords put together Christian and Jewish and Muslim nations together. We had more peace deals. People forget the Abraham Accords before Trump left his first term. And now in the last 12 months, we have 8 or 9 wars being settled. The boogeyman of the Middle East is being taken out, right? We're going to have gold-backed stable coins in every sovereign nation so we can level the playing field from a monetary standpoint, a sovereignty standpoint, and a equal weights and measures standpoint. I'll leave it at this. Jack Dorsey, when he sold X and left and went over, he's been spending all of his time in Africa with Cash App, trying to do. Stellar Lumens has been creating the last mile of peer-to-peer monetary blockchain type enablement. So you don't have to have a Merrill Lynch or a Dean Witter or Smith Barney office everywhere, or a Chase Manhattan Bank. Mojo Loop, which is a massive uh, blockchain infrastructure company, is about advanced money payment systems all over Africa. Okay, this infrastructure to provide a brand new monetary system architecture has been built since 2012. XRP was born on June the 2nd, 2012. The XRP ledger has been in development for 15 years now. Okay, so they're not just going to willy-nilly blow up the Federal Reserve and tell the Rothschilds to go to hell, retire, you're done. They've been building global infrastructure for a very, very long time. And it's going to, when we level the playing field, it's going to be so the whole world will be on a level playing field.
Thank you. Colonel Tom Lennox, you want to comment on, we're drifting now into the creation of the new whilst trying to finish off the old. What's your take on some of the points raised by Rob?
Well, I see QFS as not being anything that we have ever seen before. And the reason I say that is QFS, if I have a QFS account and I'll have a phone called a Pi phone, the only person who can open that Pi phone is me, based on my frequency and vibration, not based on my eyelids, not based on fingerprints. 8 billion Pi phones have been made already.
Wow.
They will not be using any of the 20-year-old software. And this is my comment because who developed that software originally? Blockchain was built and developed by, guess who? The criminals, the guys who sold drugs in the United States. They built it 25 years ago. I heard the Justice Department lady who was trying to figure out how to get into one of their computers, and it was blockchain. Now, blockchain is old technology. Stellar is old technology. Crypto is old technology. Again, who developed it? Crypto was developed by the guys that were selling the drugs and selling the babies.
Yep.
They built crypto. They built Bitcoin. So when we look at QFS and we look at the fact that every single person's frequency and vibration will determine their account, it's no software that any of us really understand, because it was not developed solely in the United States. It was not developed globally. It was also developed off-world.
Wow.
By the Alliance. It's an off-world development based on the fact that they can read your frequency and read your vibration. Yeah. And every one of us is different. Anyway, that's my comment.
Wow. Well,
I will.
That comment. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was going to just say that, there are patented technologies out there now that will read 150 of your voice patterns versus 10, and AI can do a voice-based analysis of your health problems, your conditions, your everything about your body, whether it's diabetes or heart disease or early on stage dementia, and you're going to be able to have probably one of the single most powerful diagnostic tools you've ever had in your life. And it takes 15 seconds if you speak it into it, because everybody's voice print is different, and the AI can calculate it and tell you what all of these different frequencies might be to a 97% level of accuracy. And so also, to your point, Colonel, you can have zero knowledge proof of your DNA and your identity and your voice and your frequency that can be stored very safely and impossible for anyone to see it, but it'll green light, red light, whether it's actually you or not, without passing any credentials, right?
That's right.
So that's called a zero knowledge proof. But again, the ledgering, we have to, God is the lawgiver, and one of the greatest laws he ever gave us was math. Man didn't create math, but man can verify whether mathematical formulas are true or false. So cryptography, if you will, is just software. It's nothing fancy. Crypto just means software. It's a form of software. It's numbers-based software, and it's supposed to be unhackable. But with quantum computing and the old technology that we've been using, it's made old blockchain irrelevant and not stable. So until we can have digital communication networks that can ledger information back and forth, but not be hackable by quantum computers, we have to advance to that stage. Okay.
And
Otherwise,
we're
we're in
there.
the stage, we're there. There's no doubt about it. I know that we're there, but the blockchain of yesteryear is being upgraded to newer technology. But last year's blockchain or yesteryear's blockchain is like the stagecoach. Anybody could come by and shoot it and take you out, right? Now you have to have a stealth level extraterrestrial, if you will, universal digital Shannon's perfect secrecy, invisible AI governance protected kind of neural network, if you will. There's got to be a neural network that ledgers truth. Because at the end of the day, John, if you and I are going to have a fight with each other, we've got to go to the record book. It's like playing a football game. There have to be rules, and you have to be able to go back and look at the tape. Was the guy's foot inbounds or out of bounds? Right? Was the clock over or was it not over? Did he catch it or did he not catch it? You've got to be able to go back and see and look at what actually happened. It can't just be an argument between my word and John's word, and whoever can punch the hardest wins. You do have to have ledgers. You have to have immutable ledgers so that law can take place. So that neural network of ledgering transactions and value exchanges, as they call it, the Internet of Value, it's to the Colonel's point. There are legacy blockchains that people talk about, but most people don't know what they're talking about. Those legacy blockchains are ages old and out of date, but new technology, new AI, and new encryption and new agentic AI governance is already here.
To our audience, real quick, and we'll go to the Colonel. You're getting a master class right now, folks, on the black hat origins of all this, its transition, its galactic origins as of recent. We're discussing the infrastructure, if you will, and the journey of where we are heading. I'm going to take us down the ladder in a few minutes and talk about the central bank in a moment. But before we do, Colonel Lennox, anything you'd like to comment on off of Rob's comments?
The only thing I would say is that we're dealing in the quantum financial system with quantum physics, which is beyond the imagination of probably 99% of the people in this country, in this world,
Yes.
which is why it's done off world. A lot of it's done off world. There are so many different groups in the Galactic Federation, and one of them's specialty happens to be the technology stuff. So, yeah, we're going to have a very interesting time understanding this whole thing. It's not
We
like
sure are,
anything we've
folks.
seen before.
Absolutely. Colonel Lennox, it comes to my mind, just a quick comment from each of you, and then I'm going to move into new territory. What sparked my mind here a moment ago, listening to you, is at the same time you're talking about galactic support, off-world stuff, Rob talked about, the voice variations. You talked about vibrations and frequencies, determining who we are and what we can do or can't do, and this sort of a thing. Um, and um, and it reminds me, I got 2 points, I guess. One is Nikola Tesla. What did he tell us? If you want to understand the universe, think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibration. Well, to our audience, now it kind of connects, doesn't it? From what our guests are sharing with us. But Tom, what I wanted to say is this. Do you think it's a coincidence in timing that the president is all of a sudden discussing releasing Area 51, UFOs, alien information at the same time when we're getting this off-planet support? I mean, is there any connection to that to open up our minds to what was once considered conspiracy, or am I crazy?
No, he's absolutely opening it up because he's been there, he's seen it all. And there are those who say he's been off world significantly during the alleged Biden administration. He himself and his family were off world. Now, off world is an interesting thought because you have to have a portal to enter and leave because the global, what do you call it? The earth is surrounded by protection. The rockets cannot penetrate it. And so cannot penetrate the dome. If the rockets can't penetrate the dome, but you have to go outside the dome to meet with the people on Jupiter, you do it through a portal. And what they're doing today, when we talk about the Khazarians, in the last 2 weeks, they have closed most of the Khazarians' portals. And that's what's got them most nervous, is they're not going to be able to escape. Anyway, that's a different subject.
Incredible. Well, thank you, sir. I think you're on a Global Defense Board panel coming back and visiting us later this month. If I'm right on that, I'm very, very excited to have you back, sir. We're going to peel that onion there with the rest of the team as well. Rob, any quick comments about that before I move us into the central bank?
Two. For those that may not know, may not be aware, Mr. Nikola Tesla died, and a man that worked at MIT for 35 years actually audited his estate for all of his papers and all of his patents on behalf of the United States government because they couldn't make hide nor tear of it. And we do know that that happened to be Donald Trump's absolute favorite uncle who audited Nikola Tesla's estate. And then he's smart enough to know that the government is nothing but a bunch of scoundrels, thieves, and liars and crooks. So he had to tell them, did nothing here. A bunch of this guy's a lunatic. There's nothing here. You think that this man, who was one of the most scholared, respected physicists at MIT, didn't tell Donald Trump a thing or two?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and number two, Greg Kidd is a gentleman that was one of the very first 10 employees. I think he maybe had been employee number 6 or something like that, top 10 employees at Ripple when they first started way back in the day. He used to work for the Federal Reserve. He was an investment banker. He's been this golden touch man, early investor in Twitter, early investor in Facebook, early investor in Google, early investor in Ripple. Well, he's on videotape, and I can find you a clip of him talking about when he first heard of what XRP was and what XRP could do from a 3 to 5 second settlement value exchange, this automatic ledgering, closing, regulating, identity verifying, compliance, 3 to 5 seconds, trillions of calculations can happen between any asset and any asset and any person and any person, any wallet and any wallet. And all of this calculation takes place and is settled and done and over. He talked about how XRP, and it didn't matter if it's a Galactica or Klingon or whatever kind of currency, intergalactic space currency we're talking about, XRP would work. So this is a guy that used to be a federal, a former Fed that worked at Ripple for 10 years, understanding. And there's only one company in the world that has this patented technology of XRP acting as this hypersonic galactic value transferring regulating scribe Think of the world as one big QuickBooks, and there needs to be an accountant that we can trust. This technological accountant called XRP is not a man, not a person, not a bank, and not a Rothschild. It's a mathematical technology that can accurately ledger for the world, and we can verify what it does. We can look at it mathematically. We can see the ledger, and it's either true or false. It's binary. Every transaction is a one or a zero. At the end of the day, the things that get recorded on the ledger are true or false. There's one company that has that technology. It's called Ripple.
Fascinating. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to jump into the pit of the central bank. We've talked about this week after week with a variety of guests I have on this broadcast. We'll go to Tom Lennox and then we'll take it back to Rob. Let's just summarize it a bit. We can, we're into the second hour of the show, and I've got a few more areas I'd like to jump into. So we'll begin with the central bank. From what I understand, of course, their game is running out. I'm talking about the major fives: Bank of America, Citibank, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, et cetera, Chase. The game they've been playing to manipulate the control and value of what we will call God's money, gold and silver, that they've been doing for decades, seems to be finally coming to an end. As I understand, there's another tranche of contracts coming due, of which they may be on the bad end of the deal, on the paper trade of it, because of the lack of silver to square them up. Can you summarize, Colonel Lennox, the debacle that the central bank itself is in right now with regard to those paper trades as it relates to metals, and how much more time will they be able to continue to control? Because, silver hit what, 110, 120, gold hit 50, 500. Then they backed it, hammered it back down. Now we've been seeing silver between 76 and 90 and gold at about 5,000 plus. When do they lose control completely, in your best guess, of the manipulation of these metals?
Okay. Well, the first thing on the central banks, the United States Central Bank, Trump merged it into the Treasury Department in 2019, thereabouts. Now, we're hearing about it today, but it's actually been done a long time ago. The Fed is gone, along with the IRS. Now, when we talk about the big banks and we talk about the trading of silver and gold, and I'll do it, it's the COMEX, Commodities Exchange Corporation. There are right now paper silver. That's, somebody wrote paper, 341 times the amount of silver that exists. Now think about that. Silver's trading at $84, I think, this week, because they've been driving it down and driving it down, and it pounces up to 90 and it drops down to 84, 85. But they can't get it down in the 70s where they want it. But they don't have the silver to cover the trades. There's no way. Now, how long it's going to take is how long it takes to close the banks down. Because not just do they have a problem with the silver, but the banks have been lending money that they didn't have. And they've been holding 3% to 5% of the amount of money they lend. They're all bankrupt.
Yes, they are.
Bankrupt for years. They're all bankrupt. The biggest banks that you know are bankrupt. They can't.
So is it a
survive.
fair? Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead. You're going to ask a question. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just a quick. It was a great episode. Thank you, gentlemen. I want to comment on this. Would it be a fair statement to say that our Commander-in-Chief and Executive Branch President Donald J. Trump is presiding over the the death of that system, the death of the
Yes,
financial system, the banking system, and the currency itself, known as the Federal Reserve, funny money
ab-
debt paper.
absolutely. The Federal Reserve owes the $38 trillion, not the U.S. Republic. And this is an
Yes.
important piece. When the U.S. corporation went bankrupt and Trump killed it, and he did, all that $38 trillion is phony money. It's
Yes.
fiat money. There is no debt, no legitimate debt by
Amen.
people
Okay.
or by the country.
Yes.
So when we start
Thank
to
you.
look at that and we peel back the
Mhm.
onion and we realize that, you took out a mortgage, and remember we had the show where we talked about the what's it called? We talked about our birth certificates, and we
Yes.
talked about the
Repatriation
fact
of
that the
wealth.
banks have been borrowing the money from our personal accounts to loan it to us and charge us interest.
Wow.
And
Thank you, sir.
and I
Yeah.
have
Go
seen
ahead.
interviews with bankers who admitted that, just flat admitted it. So
Yes.
they're going to be gone. Those big banks are
There's
going
a
to be gone.
Thank you, sir.
Go
There's a
ahead.
questions I know my audience wants me to ask about what you've just stated, and I'm going to get to it, folks. So hang in there. I know what you're thinking, and I'm sure this esteemed panel too will have an answer for you. But before I do that, I'll leave it as a mystery sandwich and cliffhanger just for a moment, because I know Rob Cunningham wants to comment on what you just said, sir. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, 1,000%. An FRN and a USD are night and day. One is a rock and one's a pole. I mean, they don't have anything to do with each other. A Federal Reserve note is a fraudulent document. You cannot pay off debt with debt. It's impossible. They can't just keep printing debt, give us FRNs, and then we give them an IOU that they gave to us. I mean, the fraud of the highest order has been put on us.
Mhm.
I want the audience to understand too. When Trump was sworn in January of 2017, he said, "I'm not returning power from one party to another, one administration to another. I'm returning power from DC back to you, the people." Power is money. Money is energy. Energy is power. Our
Yes.
our life, labor, effort, energy, creation, talent, IP, when we go out, there's an energy that's put into it, and there's a system called money that's supposed to accurately reflect that value.
Hmm.
So then that value can be
Yeah.
interchanged. Okay. 3 weeks. No, let's see. 2 weeks. I believe it was February the 3rd of 2017. Trump was sworn in on January the 20th of 2017. He signed Executive Order 13772. It's a single piece of paper with a little bit on the second page for a signature. Executive Order 13772 is these are the 7 core principles necessary for a brand new monetary architecture. 18 months later, the U.S. Treasury delivered the report from that Executive Order 13772 that laid out the entire architecture of distributed ledger technology, blockchain, a whole new monetary system based on protocols of transparency and truth and honesty and atomic settlement and all the things that we've been built. Okay. It was less than 2 years later that the damn United States Securities Exchange Commission sued Ripple and locked them down for 3 or 4 years because everybody that was in this committee, it was a 220-page report signed by Steve Mnuchin, and his partner that helped him write it 2 months later went to go to work at Ripple. Rosie Rios, who was a specialist in currency design and a treasurer for 8 years, who helped design new currency, is on the board of Ripple. You opened your show talking about the new paper, the new currency, the new printing, all the new high technology paper and metals and the way in which the new U.S. currencies. Why would a treasury person not? They normally go and get a big fat seat on a board somewhere. They go to an institution. They go and teach one class a year for $1 million. She goes to work for this little tiny startup in Silicon Valley called Ripple. Okay. She knows what's going on. She knows exactly what's happening. But in the world of Gantt charts, when you're going to do project management, you have to start with the project that's going to take the longest first. 10 days into office, President Trump signs Executive Order 13772, ordering a fundamental report on a brand new monetary architecture system for the world. And he got it 18 months later. So this has not happened by accident. This has happened by deliberate planning.
Thank you, sir. Colonel Lennox, you want to comment before I move us somewhere else?
The only comment I would make is what Trump did is what John F. Kennedy Sr. wanted to do when they killed him.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Exactly
Yeah.
what Trump did. That tells you how close the Trumps and the Kennedys really are.
It sure
Yeah.
does. And, the memes galore shows JFK.
And
uh,
and if you go
and
back
as
in
a starter.
history, if you go
Go
back
ahead.
in history, you can find Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Jackson on the same track.
Yep. And so here we have Trump finishing off what JFK unfortunately lost his life trying to do for all of us. And it's my belief and opinion that our supreme being has our president's back. That coupled with advanced technologies that we're learning about from you gentlemen today and standardized security measures, this is the reason the man is still here, carrying out the mission that JFK lost his life for. And that brings me to just a quick question here. I've heard about April. Correct me if I'm wrong, if we've heard this, that April is Liberation Day. Am I messing up the April date? Rob, you want to comment on that real quick, and then we'll go to Tom.
We've probably all heard the stories about the Lufa, the Titanic that got sunk
Yeah.
conveniently with the three most influential people that did not want there to be a Federal Reserve Bank. Do you happen to know what date
Mm-hmm.
that Titanic got sunk? April 15th.
Mm.
You happen to know that we used to have a calendar where the new year for eons was the first of the new year was April the 1st. That's where the word April Fools originated from, because everyone that complained
Interesting.
about it said the new year starts in the spring when the grass is growing and the trees are blooming and the flowers are blooming. It makes sense that a new year would start on
Of
April
course it
1.
does.
They wound the clock back 3 months to get our energy, vibration, and frequency off kilter to screw everything up, start the new year. And so, in order to get the people to stop talking about April the 1st, they made it April Fool's Day. So
Unbelievable. What
there's an
great
April Fool's
information.
Day anniversary, and there is a sinking of the Titanic anniversary, both in April. So your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that takes us to July 4th. So April, July 4th, and the narrative you just shared, Rob. Let's go to Colonel Lennox for any feedback on this. July 4th, of course, massive celebrations, we're told, block parties on the streets, foreign leaders
Mhm.
here. What is the significance? Is it just another birthday for America, barbecues and fireworks? What's happening April, July, and forward? What are we going through?
Okay. Under Nasara, there's a new election 120 days after it's finally announced. We can be doing a lot of stuff, but the final announcement is 120 days to a new national election for all congressmen, all senators, president, vice president. What's 120 days from July 4th? How about around November 3rd? Now,
Interesting.
the next thing is In addition to April 1st being the first day of the year, we also operated on a 13-month calendar
28
based on
days.
the moon. And
28
if
days
you
times 13.
if you study Indian lore, they're all everything they said was based on when the new moon came, 13 months in a year. And that's what we had
Wow.
prior to some people screwing with the calendar. Again, as Rob said, to mess up our frequency and our vibration, just like the church bells that they said they needed the metal for the fight the war. Had nothing to do with the metal. Had everything to do with the frequency and vibration that came off of those church bells that healed people.
Mm.
Anyway, that's
And to
another.
that
Wow.
and to that point, Colonel, we can go back just for fun, because that's what we're here for, right? Just fun. Uh, the whole lie about lead paint, having to take the lead paint out of the walls because it was dangerous to kids. No, they couldn't hit us with their energy. They couldn't hear and tap into our phones. They couldn't see into the homes, so they had to get rid of the lead paint. So it made it easier for them to hear us and hit us with radiation and do the things that they needed to do to surveil us.
Abs-
It had nothing to do with our health.
exactly.
Well, folks,
Absolutely right on target.
we've been living in a web of lies across the broad spectrum of life and
Yep.
living in this
Broad
controlled
spectrum.
trap matrix, and we are breaking out of it. So let us not let this bang us down. This should bring us up, because again, the truth sets us free, and we're getting a
Yep.
whole lot of it now. And that leads me to a quick question, quick answer. We'll start with Colonel Lennox. You mentioned the IRS and the federal, and I know what you're referring to in 2019, where President Trump moved the powers from the Fed, or some powers, into the Treasury Department, and all the other moves that have been made since. The Would it be a fair statement to say, as we're winding down the Federal Reserve and the IRS, that they are completely trapped and there is no way back out? Would you concur with that at this point?
I would concur
Do we do
100%. They're fully trapped because they're dealing with all the money going to London. Oh, Donald Trump just has cut that off. No money
back to
goes to
Iran?
London.
See, full circle. Yep,
Or does
full
it
circle.
go to the Vatican? Because it went to London, then it went to the Vatican. So
Mhm.
there's no way back for the IRS or the Federal Reserve. And I was thinking about something else, but I forgot it, so that's okay.
No
That
problem.
it, it,
Yeah,
One thing, I was going to get to this later, but I want to mention it now. We'll go to Rob and then Colonel Lennox. Uh, Here's the question. I mentioned this before. I called it a mystery sandwich and a cliffhanger. That I think the audience, our viewers, our followers, our friends and brothers of this world want to be addressed. While this is what they're seeing, saying, and feeling. They're saying, "Well, wait a second. We hear from experts like the guests on this show and other panels and other shows that the Federal Reserve is done, the IRS is done, and the U.S. 1871 Corp is done, and we've severed all these ties, cutting the cords, as Rob said in the beginning. And while that narrative, for those that are awake and listening, uh, understand that, the question they have is, when will it be officially put into motion, officially announced by the administration, where they say, okay, you don't have to pay these income taxes anymore. This is what we're going to do. The whole, in other words, I, I understand that the Federal Reserve and the IRS, for all intents and purposes, are finished, but, when is it official? When and how will it officially be announced? Because until it is, everyone's in a quandary. Do I pay the tax? Do I not pay the tax? When, uh, did we restore our constitutional republic? While you're reporting and other experts are reporting that these things are true, when has it become, quote, official? And how would that play out? We'll start with Colonel Lennox, if you have, some thoughts about that.
Well, Trump announced the other day that the Republic was reestablished based on Article 2 of the United States Constitution. He officially announced it. So we
Okay.
can say the Republic is now in existence. And I've had some discussions with Derek. We said nothing that was done between 1871 and this March is valid because Trump is actually the 19th president of the United States Republic.
Yes.
So
Okay. Well,
that that's my comment on that part.
yes.
The other part, official announcement, I believe is going to be 17th of May.
Why is
He's
that?
doing a big rally on the 17th of May in DC. And I believe that that's when he will announce a lot of these things, but not official Nasara until 4 July, just because of when you want to have the election.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for all that clarification and for us to look at these trigger dates. Rob, any comments on that before I wind the program down with
200,
one or two subjects?
250 years exactly to the date on May 17th of 1776, George Washington led a national repentance and a prayer to God to bless the country before they signed the Declaration of Independence. So if my people will first humble themselves and ask for repentance, God will restore our land. So there's a repentance on the National Mall 250 years to the day that we had the first national repentance, if you will, or prayer vigil in Washington by George Washington. Okay, so I think that's extremely, extremely critically important. Um, I was of the mindset that we're going to see, I believe we'll get price even before law, before we get this Clarity Act signed. We're going to start seeing leaks and rumbles and deals, and information is going to come out. Uh, I was of the mindset that we'd have at least one quarter, April, May, and June before the 4th of July, to let the oil start running through the engine and get the economy going and get some relief and some, higher gold and higher silver and higher XRP and higher just overall vitality, growth, and health, so that there's an up mood, going into the 4th of July. That it's not going to just be an overnight one over the weekend and everybody's in shock and awe. People are going to have to acclimate and grow and believe that this is real and permanent and here, and not just another conspiracy theory rumor. They're not just going to all
Right.
go have this superficial party and glorified barbecue cookout on the 4th of July without a lot of substance behind it. And I think we're going to have a lot of substance going into the 4th of July.
Thank you. This is sort of normally I'd ask on my military panels, but I've got to ask it here as well. It's March 11th here in Thailand, March 12th here in Thailand, March 11th back home there live right now. While July 4th is a ways away, it's coming pretty quick. And the question that is on the minds of our viewers, and I'm on the pulse of this is why I asked this question. How is it that we're going to be celebrating all these things, as the president has stated, in July? And you gentlemen have raised a whole lot of great information as to the why behind it. But the question that's on people's minds is, we've got a lot of messes to get through. Right, we're dropping bombs. We're doing epic fury. We're on to Cuba. We're on to other places later. Never mind the Epstein debacle, or not debacle, the great release of the Epstein files and the justice that has to now follow. And then you've got J6 and you've got 9/11. I mean, you've got all the issues. But Russia Gate. Let me boil it down to this: the drums have been beating on the Epstein release, and everyone waiting for justice and through the tribunals. Then you have equally Russiagate. All roads lead to Obama. We saw the Hillary and Bill depositions. What a joke! And so these are big stories, and these are the big fish, at least optically. What's on the minds of people is, will these things, where will, and also the dangers on the streets of America, the sleeper cells. I mean, the DHS, I did a public service announcement citing specific sources, specifically from the FBI and the DHS, specifically naming the cities and the threat level, which were all greatly concerning. And in light of what's happening now with the retaliations based on the moves made by our military and the commander in chief, it's a long-winded question and statement, but there's a lot here, and this is important. So, with having said all that, dangers in the streets, now incoming, presumably, Epstein pursuant to justice, and then the Russiagate, all roads lead to Obama. Trump said he was treasonous. We know the punishment for treason. These things, how is it that we'll be celebrating? To me, if we're celebrating in July and we're showing the world this is who we are, we're back, where does all that mess? Are we going to get through all that by July? How will it be stable? That's the question. If I hopefully phrased it right, Colonel Lennox, do you care to comment on that? And I realize some of these things will take years, but I'm talking about the time frame of today to July 4th.
There will be a 10-day EBS at some point very soon. When it is, nobody really knows, but it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is the military, 1 million military have been pre-positioned around the United States. That's reserves, National Guard, and active duty.
Mm-hmm.
Because most
That's
of what's
encouraging.
going on, most of what's going on over in Iran is special forces operations, not the regular troops and soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
sailors, and airmen. So when the EBS hits, the biggest reason for it is to keep people off the streets, to keep the normal people off the streets so the military can round up those guys you're talking about that we know are
Okay.
out there, the sleeper cells. They know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
They know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to get them because they have all the information. They've got people inside those sleeper cells, literally inside them.
Mm-hmm.
So they know. But in order to keep you and I from getting shot, or those of us who are here in the States from getting shot, they've got to close things down for 10 days. That's
Okay.
my thing on that.
Well, thank you very much. Rob, quick comment on that as well.
The truth shall set you free, right? I want to give you an anecdotal evidence. My daughter's a sophomore in high school, and they completely took the lid off the Epstein files and let them become completely searchable, right? They did LLMs that only allowed people to go in and type in and do any kind of data pattern search or query they wanted to and look at these things. 2 weeks after that had done, somehow or another, military and history intelligence class or something. These are sophomores, high school. Some loudmouth punk that doesn't know anything said something about, oh, that's all a bunch of crap. My daughter said 17 kids out of 20 turned around and did dude, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And he never said another word. So when the truth came out and the 17-year-olds had gone and checked the truth and they knew what the truth was, they immediately shut down the one idiot loudmouth. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what happens when we get to see people that will get They'll go and get enough of the truth to satisfy them to know what the truth is, and the truth will set us free. One of the greatest irritants in social media right now is, yeah, well, when's the first arrest going to happen? Nothing's happening. Nobody said anything. It's not on CNN. It's not on Fox News. Nothing's happening. Come on, people,
Bullshit.
please. These people
Yes.
aren't paying attention. But
Correct.
think about the flip that over. When they spend a week paying attention and it's available to them and they know the truth, then they'll flip. It's
Hmm.
not that they're saying it's not true. They're saying I haven't seen it yet. And when they see
Yes.
it, they're going to act like those 17 kids in the school looking at somebody that says something stupid and shuts them down. Because now they will have seen the truth. That's just to me an anecdotal
Thank you.
evidence of how fast truth can change the psyche of this country.
Absolutely. In a split second. Great points. Would you concur with Colonel Lennox that the EBS is a foregone conclusion? And if so, before July? I know we don't
Look,
have a crystal ball. I understand dates. I get it. You know,
I believe at the end of the day, the greatest risk to this 10-year battle and war that we've been in is that for some reason the general psyche of the public believes it was a banana republic or a military coup or it wasn't legitimate. They have to see how bad it was to give due credit where credit is due and forever appreciate and creating a whole new mountain with just Trump on it. Trump isn't being
yes.
added to Mount Rushmore. He's going to have his own damn mountain. Okay. But the only way that's going to happen and for us to have a lasting, long, we need that period of time after David cut Goliath's head off, a long period of peace and prosperity, wasn't there? We need to cut the head off the central banking system, and people need to understand the epic nature and effort and sacrifice and dedication and courage and leadership that it took to take the head off of this beast system that was strangling people in 195 nations. When people come to
Yes.
realize that's Trump's legacy, we're
Hmm.
going to have a very long lasting freedom to follow.
Beautiful. Yeah. Restoring sound money and restoring free and fair elections. Legacies of President Donald J. Trump. Thank you. So, gentlemen, we got about 10 or 15 minutes. I appreciate your time. To close out with this, and Colonel Lennox, the episode you and I did a while back on the birth certificate, it was just you and I think, for the solid hour and a half. Uh, there was one soundbite. Sizzle reels are created from the shows, little 50-second bits, and they get published out there. Your one soundbite garnished that we know of, verifiable, 2 million views to listen to 57 seconds of your words. And I have to tell you, folks, we probably have a few of those here from Rob Cunningham and you again, Colonel Lennox. This has been a very powerful, very enlightening, a very intellectual, but yet not over the heads of the average Joe like myself and those listening. This show should resonate with everyone. Why? You're getting a whole lot of truth bombs. That's why. And so my closing comments are with Colonel Lennox and Rob is repatriation of wealth. If you can summarize, I know there's a lot there, but we've got the our life's energy being traded as through the birth certificate, through that number and those capital letters. There's that piece. There's the stolen wealth due to the unconstitutionality and illegality and lack of verification or ratification of the 16th Amendment and the Federal Reserve Act itself. We have that piece. I'm putting some big clusters together to unleash each of you. The third cluster, so you've got the trading of our birth certificate. How much did they take from us there? Then you've got the taxation and inflation, both created by the private for-profit central bank. There's that stolen wealth. Then there's who knows what else, as you mentioned before, fraudulent mortgage contracts, this, that, the credit cards, everything else. The Bible speaks of a jubilee. We have Nasara Yasara. There's a whole lot of stuff I just threw at the dartboard. Colonel Lennox, do you want to comment on tying that together for our viewers over the umbrella of repatriation of wealth. We now know what and how has been stolen. How's it coming back to us?
The coming back to us is an interesting challenge that is faced. I'm 80 years old. In all likelihood, whatever is coming back to me is going to come back in one lump sum right away. And then there's age brackets going back to age 21, where there's a different amount that each person's going to get immediately. It may be an annual stipend, it may be a lump sum, but everything you talked about, to include the different trusts that are out there, uh,
Mhm.
3 or 4, what I got, one of them written down here. The St. Germain Trust,
Mhm.
the Solomon Trust, there's another trust, there's the dragons, the white dragons in China,
Mm.
money. There's money we're finding all over the world in gold and silver and
Yes, we
platinum and
are.
palladium. All of that,
Mhm.
just the money that was taken from the Vatican, would have provided $1 million to every single man, woman, and child in the world. Just that, $526 quadrillion at the gold price then, and it's gone way up since then. So it's probably $600 quadrillion. I can't even count a quadrillion, but there's going to be
A lot of
for
zeros.
everybody a jubilee where they will have a significant amount of money, and depending on their age, they will be able to choose what they do based on their life's desire, not based on sitting there at a desk for 30 years, passing paper back and forth that means nothing. So the Jubilee is coming, and I believe it's going to come in April. But
Wow,
I
that's
don't want
soon.
to say dates, but
Yes.
it, the latest things I hear all over is April. But the way that's going to come is that's when you get your Pi phone and computer that has your money listed in it, and they're already programming that money into those machines for everybody. You're not going to get it in the mail. You're going to get it by going in for an interview, and the interview is going to include your uh, frequency and vibration, so that the phone that you have is recorded against you and you alone. Now, people will say, well, how do I pass it on? There'll be a system to pass on the wealth if you so
Hmm.
desire. But the other part of it is there will be humanitarian projects. There'll be huge humanitarian projects that will be funded out of all this money that's around. And it's all going to be gold backed or silver backed or uh, platinum or palladium backed. Everybody will, at some point, go in for an interview. They'll get an email, it will be encoded, and they will be told a phone number to call. They'll go in for an appointment with a counselor. They'll be able to take 1 or 2 people with them. They won't be able to be taking their army in there with them, but they'll be able to take 1 or 2 people in there as advisors or however they want to put it. But there will be, the taxes are supposed to all come back. They, uh, I don't believe anybody will get all the money that their birth certificate's worth because they could never spend it. unless they're going to do a huge humanitarian project, and they won't need it. That's the key to the whole thing is people won't need to focus on money. They'll focus on themselves and living and their love of their life and all those things. And if they work,
Mhm.
and a lot of them will have to work at some level, if they work, they'll work at something they love. And they won't be dependent upon some college degree or something like that. They'll do the work they love. Uh, I have two kids that are artists, and they both do nothing but art, different ways. One's in advertising design, the other one does photography, but they work at what they love. And
Mhm.
that's the greatest thing in the world is to watch that. Anyway, that's my comment on there's going to be some sum of money, but people send me emails from this show saying, how do I go
Yes.
get that money?
Yeah, of course.
You can't go get that money. They're going to tell you how to come have an appointment to take care of getting that money, whatever amount it's going to be.
Thank you, Colonel Lennox. Three follow-ups, and we'll go to Rob, and we'll wind our broadcast down. This has been an incredible discussion. My hunch was right to bring you two gentlemen together because I knew the vibration and frequency would take us where we needed to go. And I thank you both very, very much. I want to talk about, you mentioned earlier the AI understanding us inside the spirit, the mind, the body, thoughts, predictive behavior, so forth and so on, the frequency of us. Would that, in this interview process that you've laid out for us here, wouldn't that play into it? In other words, if a person isn't clean and maybe doing something nefarious with $8 million that they've decided he can get tomorrow morning, what does that play into it? And if so, do you have any insights, feedback, or just opinions about that aspect?
My opinion about that is absolutely they will know if you're clean. They will know
Good.
that. And that's part of what the QFS is about, is
Yes.
cleaning up. And to clean up, they've got to know. And and
Yeah.
it's
And,
the same thing
oh, go ahead, sir.
when we talk about the med beds, it's exactly the same thing. You got to be clean. Got to have a spiritual relationship, not necessarily a church relationship, but a spiritual
Yes.
relationship with your God. Rob's
Beautiful.
saying, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to Rob in one sec. I got a couple more follow-ups with you, sir, and I'm sure Rob's taking a whole lot of mental notes here. Thank you for doing that. When as we're to our audience, as we're listening to this final segment from Colonel Lennox, now it makes a lot more sense, does it not? When Elon Musk said, "You won't have to work anymore. There'll be no need to save money soon," and he just drops that out there, and then like says, "Let's go have lunch." I mean, that's a big statement. You've just got the backfill from Colonel Lennox as to how and why Musk made that statement, in my humble opinion. And last question to Colonel Lennox, and we'll flip over to Rob on this, is the question of when. Uh, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of money, there's all that stolen wealth that you've talked about that we've located and are still in the process of doing so, and then the whole system, to let it travel on these phones and the QFS and so forth that we've been discussing. Of course, there's the new currency and all that, which we don't have time to get into just yet. But that to me seems like a process that could take time before that wealth comes to the people. Because I know that's all the bottom line. Everyone's going, when do I get my money? I mean, the people are getting pissed off now. It's fascinating because nobody knew about this a year ago, broadly speaking, that all our wealth is stolen and we're worth all these. And now all of a sudden they're demanding their money. I mean, it seems like they're falling right into
Yeah,
right into line
it,
as a psyop has dictated. Here they are, predictive programming and human behavior, and so
okay.
that's how they're responding. So, what would you say, sir? When will they get their money?
If they're worried about money, they shouldn't be. Because right now we're all in fiat currency. When it could be tomorrow, it could be July, August, we don't know. We do know that they've trained the people that are going to interview people, that are going to give them their phones, that are going to get them ratified as their frequency and vibration into the phone. We know that. Now, who those people are, we don't know that. If those people start talking, they lose their job. It's that simple.
Okay.
We talked about the Treasury in D.C. I think the Treasury is going to be in Reno, Nevada. And the reason I
Okay.
think it's going to be in Reno, Nevada is because that's where all of the meetings with all of the people that control the money have taken place, is in Reno.
Interesting.
But anyway, that's a different
Yeah.
side
Well,
side comment.
107 comes to mind when you mention Reno for a host of reasons. But thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We'll sign you off in just a moment. Rob Cunningham, you've been patiently uh, taking all this in. How would you like to jump into this phrasing that I set up for the Colonel a bit ago and weigh in on this?
Well, to underwrite the Colonel, I would say perhaps the single greatest lie, the two single greatest lies in the world are that A, Satan doesn't exist, and B, scarcity is real. There's no such thing as scarcity. There is so much abundance in this world. We are deployed for purpose by the Creator. And if we have purpose, you think He wouldn't resource us? I mean, look at the land that's been stolen by governments. Look at the natural resources that are underneath all the stolen land. Look at the abundance of oil is the second largest natural resource in the world, and it's a recurring, abundant process. It's a it's a substance that's not it's not dinosaur bones that were melted, people that believe in the cult of climate science. Okay, oil is one of the second largest, most abundant, naturally recurring resources in the world. Can we stop it already? Okay, land, minerals, precious metals, buildings, creativity, patents. Could you imagine if the 4,700 patents of Nikola Tesla were in a sovereign wealth fund in America, and everybody in America got a dividend off of the patents of Nikola Tesla that were stolen by the Khazarian, Rothschild assholes when he died? I mean, what if we were beneficiaries of just the royalties of technologies built off of his patents alone? What would be
Mm-hmm.
how wealthy would we be? I mean, you can go to Singapore, you can go to Qatar, you can go to places all over the world, and those cities are so fantastically clean and perfect and sophisticated and nice, and
Mm-hmm.
people are cordial. We look like a third world. We look like we're living back in the 50s over
Yes.
here in America, compared to some of these
Mm-hmm.
modern day, clean, industrial,
Absolutely.
well, safe places around the world. So we have been lied to since the day the doctor slapped us on the ass. There is no scarcity. We violated the number one command of the scriptures, which is fear not, 365 times, and they beat the shit out of us by being afraid of everything. And while we're afraid, they've stolen everything. But
Mm-hmm.
to the colonel's point, we know where it all is. We have it all. It's all coming back. And we're going to be made whole. We're going to have, as Elon said, universal high income. not basic income, universal high income. But here's the other point. That's kind of soul scan, that soul underwriting, that who are you, what's your
Mhm.
frequency, energy, vibration. A, they don't want to refinance evil. And B, they have to
No.
also understand that money is like a drug. And some people, you've got to be aware of the lottery syndrome. People win the lottery and their lives, 95% of their lives are ruined within 5 years. They're a complete disaster. They're bankrupt, they're divorced, they're drug addicts. They don't have a wealth mindset. They don't know how to manage wealth. And all of a sudden they come into a bunch of money. And if you don't know what you're doing with it, too much money is destructive as hell. So
Yep.
we can't just give $1 million to everybody in America and think that they're not going to go overdose or do something stupid with it. Right? I mean, in some respects, we've got to have some discernment and some wisdom into how you just back up to somebody's house and drop off $5 million and say, good luck. I mean, that can be very dangerous to people, right? And
Absolutely.
Yes,
so
for
we
sure.
there's going to be an art form to this. It's not going to be blunt
Hmm.
force. Here's your wealth. Good luck. Okay. And so I'm so optimistic that the truth sets us free. We are going to wake up. The end will not be for everyone. There will be some people that know. Look at what's going on today. You've got millions of females in Iran celebrating and dancing and want to all have babies with Trump. And you've got the blue-haired, white, woke tard idiot females in America that think Trump's an asshole.
Yeah.
Yet these women got free and they're safe, right? And these idiots just are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. So it
Well, let them have babies with James Carville.
no, no. Oh my God, the thought of that is just like, no, I'm not going to be able to
Woo.
sleep tonight. But look, we are blessed to be living at this epic moment in global history. There has never been one like it. I didn't deserve it. It's unmerited grace, but I just thank God for the wealth of being awake. Can you imagine living through the
Yeah.
last 10 years angry, bitter, pissed off, and clueless? How many people are still asleep and refuse to do the work to try to gain some understanding and wisdom? They're so prideful, they would rather hate than forgive. And that is a terrible place to be.
Let's bring that EBS home, folks. Let's bring that EBS on and wake the rest of these people. And the ones that don't wake up from thereafter, well, God will deal with them later. That's all I can say. Thank you, Rob Cunningham. Any closing statements from you, Colonel Lennox?
I was just thinking about those who don't want this, they'll probably end up in an off world facility that they need to be in because the Jubilee, and there's one of the truthers that talks the Jubilee all the time, and phenomenal lady. I've met her. Uh, but the Jubilee is important, and it is if you're God fearing, God loving, spiritually awake, it'll happen. If you're not spiritually awake, it ain't going to happen. And it doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Judean. You notice I didn't say Jews, I said Judeans, a Christian who doesn't go to a church but believes in Christ. It doesn't matter. If you have the love of God, then in here, in your heart, and up here in your brain, and you pray to him on a regular basis. You don't ask him for anything, just pray to him. Because if you ask him for something, chances are you're not going to get it. Or if you get it, you're not going to get what you want. You just have to pray to him. But spirituality is going to be very important for people, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people. Very hard. Particularly those who spend 5 days a week in church and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be really hard for them.
Understood. Well, listen, this has been an incredible broadcast. Go ahead. Last word, sir?
Yeah, that's my last comment. Spirituality is what counts.
And can I give
Yes.
one
So,
final comment? Yeah. For those that are listening that really truly want to help others that may be on the verge, they're still not sure, they're waffling, they want to believe, but they just don't know what to believe. I was blessed to just have a movie. Some folks in California, a husband and wife team, created a movie called Money Disrupted. And it really is it's a 2-hour documentary from 1776 to 2026. And it's about ending the Fed, and it's money disrupted. And it's got everybody from, G. Edward Griffin to Robert Kiyosaki to Ron Paul to just very, very many notorious names. You can just Google it, Money Disrupted. Okay. It's like 19.99 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe there's coupons out there for 25% off. But the point being is, if people will understand what the money changers have done to this world and done through the auspices of American credibility for 200 years, and they see how badly they have lied, cheated, and stolen and weaponized, divided and conquered us through this Federal Reserve system, if they can begin to go, wow, I never knew that, they'll open their minds up to listening to everything, every single thing else we spoke about on this conversation tonight. But for those that are on the edge, if it's in a movie, if movie producers put it out there, if there's people that they know they've made a documentary out of it and they go and consume it that way, if that's what it takes to start waking more people up, gift this to people. Give it as a graduation present. Give it as a birthday present. Give it as a 4th of July present. Give it as an April Fool's joke. I don't care how you gift it to somebody. Just point somebody to it. But go and see the movie Money Disrupted and share it with other people. If you watch that movie 2 hours, it'll put you in the top 20 percentile. 80% of the Americans can understand, oh my God, I never knew that. Why didn't anybody ever tell me? And if they've lied to me for 200 years about banking, what else have they lied to me about? It's one of the easiest, in my mind, it's a very well done movie, and it's one of the easiest red pills you can deliver without having to argue with anybody.
Money Disrupted, is this something that needs to be streamed or purchased, or is it available on, say, YouTube or something? How do we get it?
Yeah, you pay for it and you stream it right there. Once you pay for it on your phone or on your laptop, you can stream it and watch it on your laptop. You can stream it to your home phone or watch it on your cell phone. I was going to, I shouldn't say this, but I had to go to Mississippi to go meet with David Clements and my daughter, who's an Ole Miss student, and the movie came out, and I had my little phone connected to my air vent magnet, and I listened to it the whole way over while I was driving to Mississippi. So, I mean, you can watch it anywhere you want to watch it, but it is a fantastic documentary, and it captures the 95-year-old G. Edward Griffin's. He is a national treasure. If you've never read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, to understand that, I've just, it warms my heart that this man is going to be alive to see the death of the Federal Reserve System that he exposed so brilliantly in the early 90s.
Absolutely. I've said this with retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi on the Bossi Briefs I publish every other Monday, that to your point of Mr. G's work, many things, but the Federal Reserve being one of the stellar things he raised the attention to decades ago, he should be given that Medal of Honor or whatever it is that the presidents give to the Medal of Freedom,
Yeah.
to the citizen of G. Edward Griffin instead of Harvey Weinstein and Ellen DeGeneres and Tom Hanks and all these characters, Barbara Streisand and Bruce Springsteen, that and Robert De Niro, that have gotten that. He should rip that off them and give it to G. Edward Griffin and other people. And I sure hope that that happens before Mr. G moves on to another plane. I've got to wrap up the show. We've exceeded 2 hours. You gentlemen have been incredible, inspiring, very informative, and both doing God's work and both having served in military. I salute you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. May God bless you both. Come back. This has been dynamic. Perhaps we should do panels like this more frequently on this broadcast. So thank you all very much. To my producer, let's make an announcement through our promotional. I don't know what's coming up, folks, but whatever it is, publish it. Let's go. Thank you to my two guests. Run the clip.
His commentary and analysis is among the best, bar none. His words serve as a masterclass. He deconstructs the deceptions of the PSYOP war. He is the author of The Greatness Awaits You, the national leader of Australia One Party Incorporated, a monthly panel participant in JMC's Global Defense War, in a league of his own, an international treasure, a follower of Jesus Christ. He is Ricardo Bossi. Ricardo Bossi is a published author and speaker, international business consultant, former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel, having served 24 years in the Australian Army, including postings to the Special Air Service Regiment, the 1st Commando Regiment, Headquarters Special Operations, and the U.S. Combined Joint Task Force Headquarters in Kuwait. Don't miss JMC Broadcasting's Bossi Briefs, where John sits down with Ricardo, helping to connect the dots, making sense of the madness, keeping us all grounded and united as the battle between good and evil play out before our very eyes. Join John and Ricardo every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at jmcbroadcasting.com.
We're into the second year of Bossi Briefs with Ricardo Bossi, and he missed one episode due to scheduling conflicts. People have been asking, what's up? That's what's up, and he'll be back. I'm recording Saturday with Ricardo Bossi. We'll resume our schedule of every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Now, the announcement on the screen here, all new Patriot Q&A hour. Get your questions answered. It's one solid hour, 8 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, March 26th. Derek and I on screen in our private setting. Learn how to get there by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com and click on Premium Portal. And if Premium Portal is not for you, well, you won't be able to avail yourself to this and many other benefits, but you can certainly subscribe for free and get a lot of other content. And by the way, 99% of everything we produce at JMC Broadcasting is, of course, free to the public. But come join us. All new Patriot Q&A, Derek Johnson, to get your questions answered. I want to make mention, this was put up on the screen by Will Barney, and it reminded me, I don't think I've ever once promoted my own book on this broadcast, but it's titled the same, Global Financial Reset, Surviving and Thriving the Transition. You can pick this up. As you can see, it's a quick read. It's about 80 some odd pages, available. I think it's 5-star rated on Amazon.com. And it basically covers the premise of the reset and really acts as a workbook and an action item tool going through the GOOTS, get out of the system model. So you'll want to check out this book, Global Financial Reset. And next week, joining us on this very show is the Will and Bill Hour. Will Barney, Bill Armour. We're going to jump into the issues of the day, whatever transpires between now and then, and have these gentlemen weigh in. But we're also bringing back, second appearance, attorney Benjamin Hart, U.S. citizen, also Thai citizen, practicing law here in Thailand for about 20 years. I've worked with him in a variety of capacities, and he's going to weigh in on the economic impact, the global impact, and some of the particular things that are taking place here in Southeast Asia and in Thailand. So we look forward to this broadcast next week here on the Global Financial Reset. And I can't thank retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox and Rob Cunningham for an absolutely incredible episode. I hope you found it inspirational, enlightening, informative, and hopeful. Remember faith, hope, and love? Without hope, life would not be the way I would like to live it. You have to have hope, and it's not hopium. A lot of great information was provided for you here, and I hope it helps. We need to be patient. We need to keep doing what we're doing because the life raft is coming. I want to thank you all for following and sharing our work. We've grown to over 10 million collective views monthly from about 10 shows that we publish, plus all the other incredible information, updated, some things by the hour at jmcbroadcasting.com, some things updated daily. Very current site. Visit our Library of Truth, our resource guide, our Pulse of the Nation news feeds, and my war reports, which are now published on a daily basis, 3 to 5 minute reports. Thank you, Guardian Daniel R., for your support. Also, other quick announcement is Larry Ballard is coming to JMC Broadcasting on a very unique, not a show, an education curriculum by category. Stay tuned. That gets launched in April. And Julie Donuts, you might say. Sure, 200,000 followers on X. Been shared. Her posts have been shared by General Flynn, not once, but twice, and by our Commander-in-Chief and President Donald J. Trump. She'll be launching Donut Drops with Julie once a week here at JMC Broadcasting. Bookmark our site, subscribe for free, jmcbroadcasting.com. This is John Michael Chambers speaking with his voice. Speak with your voice. The best is yet to come, and may God be with you.
Your hard-earned assets are under attack and may be in harm's way. Many people are confused, thus concerned about what is going on with the currency, the markets, and the economy. A great change is underway. With the private wealth coach consult, of which John Michael Chambers discusses in greater detail in Module 10 of the Wealth Coach University, you can break through procrastination as you become informed, empowered, and connected. JMC has created a system whereby you can avail yourself to a team of like-minded professionals to help you navigate this unprecedented minefield and meet privately with John Michael Chambers. The Wealth Coach University was launched based upon years of experience as a successful former financial advisor to help you, Goots, get out of the system.
Hello, this is John Michael Chambers. I retired after nearly 15 years as an independent financial advisor in 2008 to heed a higher calling. My biography can be accessed by visiting wealthcoachuniversity.com. I know what goes on behind the scenes in the world of Wall Street and investments, as well as having my finger on the pulse of the global financial reset of which we are presently engaged. Let's discuss the Wealth Coach Consult. I am not a financial advisor, and I do not give specific financial advice, nor can I assist you in the repositioning of your assets. I will, however, provide answers to your questions to the best of my ability and provide a high-level analysis of you and your situation. At the conclusion of our consult, if one is prepared to take the next step and begin repositioning assets to Goots, G-O-O-T-S, get out of the system, I will make available to you the appropriate individuals in my resource network. In the financial world, these are licensed, seasoned, patriot professionals that can assist in this area and to help you get from where you are to where you need to be as soon as possible, both confidentially and with confidence. Visit wealthcoachuniversity.com. By doing so, you gain access to the 10 free educational video PowerPoint modules. Then schedule your Wealth Coach consult with me today. I do look forward to speaking with you. It's time.